Well, here we are. I always say this to everybody. This is one of my favorite questions because I find it fascinating what happens. But we all have influencers, sometimes for a minute, right time, right place, sometimes over a lifetime. My grandfather was my first major influencer. He used to take me to the park walking, and long story short, I saw he would talk to everybody, and I would call him, I'm Jewish, I would call him Zeta. I say, Zeta, how do you know all these people? And he said, I didn't. One day I smiled at one and he smiled back at me. And then he started talking to me. And then we talking more. And then another person. And then I got all these friends and we're doing stuff. And I said, I know I was 5 or 6 years old. I got what I got, but I got more as I kept thinking about it. So that was influential to me in a basic but brilliant way, actually, I thought. So can you share with us maybe 2 or 3 people that have been influential in your life?
Absolutely. And the first really has to start with my mother. And I'd say my parents, but my mom was this one staying at home. And so she really was the one that reinforced the message. And that was, I grew up in the 60s and 70s, which is a time of a lot of racial tensions. Mm-hmm. And many times we lived in communities where I was the only Black girl. And unfortunately, I got bullied. I even got beat up. Things happened to me that weren't great. And when you come home and you say, Mom, this happened to me. It's not fair. It's not fair. Mom, instead of just giving me a hug and patting me on the back and saying it'll be okay, she basically said, Shellye, life's not fair. What? Life is supposed to be fair, right? You get a turn, I get a turn. You get a lollipop, I get a lollipop. What do you mean? But that's what she said. And the other thing she said was, you can't control what people say to you, and you can't control what people do to you, because they said and did terrible things to me. She goes, but you can control how you respond. So don't let them win. And they win if they impact how you feel about yourself and what you decide to do.
That's brilliant.
Okay. So those 2 messages, life isn't fair, and you can control how you respond to the world and what you do, and don't let others impact that. Those 2 things together is what really made me so intentional in my life, because I knew life wasn't fair. So I had to figure out a way to improve my odds every step of the way. So that was a huge, huge impact in just how I viewed the world. And then, I have to give my late husband the next big influencer. And it was really about failure. I started out my career at IBM in sales. And I'd sold this great big deal. I mean, lots of visibility, senior execs flew in to meet with my client, the whole bit. This was tens of millions of dollars over multi-years, wonderful. It was point of sale for Rite Aid until it wasn't. CEO calls me in and says, we've changed our mind. We decided, since we're going to spend so much money in point of sale, we'll just invest in a point of sale company. No. You got to tell everybody. And oh my gosh, the calls, the loss reviews. I mean, it's almost like somebody had died, Oh, Shellye, I heard. How are you doing? Right? So sorry. Oh, it was awful. So I come home from work like 3 days later, and my late husband says, how's your day? And I said, how do you think it was? Right? This whole writing thing. And he says, Shellye, it's been 3 days. The mourning period is over. He says, you're the same person you were 3 days ago. There's nothing different about you. You lost a deal. Go find another one.
Is he related to your mom?
I know. I'm telling you, I've been fortunate to surround myself with amazing people. And so what I learned, and it was such a critical learning so early in my career, was a failure only defines you if you let it.
Right.
As long as you learn from it and move forward, it's just a learning. So those 2 things, really helped set me up for the whole resiliency. And then third one I'll give, which is a really tactical one, IBM. I started my career at IBM, and I got an opportunity to work with an executive. It was like an interim assignment. It's a chance to give you, as a rising star, visibility, right, with executives. So I'm working with him for like a month on a temporary basis. And he uses me like a second person. So if he has a meeting, he has me go to a meeting, and I leave him a voicemail. This is before email. I leave him a voicemail about what happened in the meeting. And, we check in 3 or 4 days later. He says, Shellye, I appreciate the voicemails. I mean, I wanted them to be thorough and complete and everything. He said, I get like 100 voicemails a day. He said, it would really help me if you were to shorten and make it more net. I really got it. Well, I took that And literally I would record, listen, record, listen, re-record until I got it as net and tight as possible. What I learned from that experience was, especially men, they wanted really net tight communications.
Yeah.
Make the point first, and then you can give background and perspective, right? So that helped me significantly. And I was in male-dominated environments in tech my whole career. So those would be 3 things that I'd share off the top.
That's brilliant. That's all brilliant. It's interesting because in a certain search, every search we do, we have to tell of the finalists the 2 that didn't get it. And the one thing I learned from somebody similar was not to give a whole story and then tell them, because they kind of get the idea that you're just telling this whole story. And if you're going to really respect them, I tell them right away, I'm so sorry it didn't work out. However, this is what they loved about you, etc. I feel better, they feel better, the whole bit, and it's brilliant. It's brilliant advice. So sounds like you're carrying that out to the world in honor of your mom and your late husband. So way to go. And next time you send me a voicemail, I want it to be tight. Hey, thank you so much for sharing all that. I really appreciate that.
Thank you.